Good morning, everybody. We will begin the broadcast in about 2 minutes. I just want to give people a couple more minutes to log in. It's almost 10 o'clock, and so we'll be right back with you in just about 2 minutes. Thank you. All right. We are ready to start the event today. Thank you very much for coming to the multi-factor authentication webinar. My name is Tom Ruffalo. I'm the CEO of eSecurity Solutions. Our other presenter today and our featured presenter is Alex Caglione, who is the co-founder and originally was CTO of DataBlink, which was acquired by Watchguard. He's now in the lead position role there in driving the MFA initiative within Watchguard. And so we're really excited about that, and we wanted to be the first to introduce you to that, perhaps in the United States. And again, eSecurity Solutions, which is the company that I represent, we work with a lot of the people that are on the phone right now. We're a cybersecurity solution provider for business. We provide a number of solutions, which is exhibited here on our website. I'm going to talk a little more about that at the end. I'm not going to start off by talking about that, but I will close with a few comments about what we do toward the end. So this is an important topic, multi-factor authentication. And why is it important? Well, it's important because there's a very high percentage of the breaches that do involve stolen credentials or lost credentials, and Verizon's report in 2018 continues to show that as a key reason. The criminals are using multiple methods for acquiring these credentials, and I think probably the worst part about credential loss or theft is that once they're acquired, the attackers have sort of unabated access to just about anything that these credentials will allow them access to, right? So usernames and passwords have long been known to not be adequate as methods for doing authentication and access control. And then, of course, once you have credentials, pretty much all other security is irrelevant. I mean, it's not completely true, but it's almost true. And so, if that's the case, then why is multi-factor authentication so little used in companies? So all security regulations require strong ID management and access control. So another reason that it should be used. Not every regulation says you have to do it this way or that way, but the implication is passwords aren't strong enough. And another interesting point is passwords are reused by 62% of the users, which most of us, I think every one of us knows that, right? I mean, I probably have 100 accounts in various things, and I don't even know why or how that ever happened. But I do know that I'm tempted to use some of them, and I'll have like 3 different tiers of passwords. I'll have the not so secure, the pretty secure, and then I'm going to bet my life that they better be secure level for like my financial accounts. And then for the financial accounts, I'll have something on top of that, right? I mean, I have to. But knowing this, right, knowing that 62% of the users reuse passwords, password stuffers, or basically criminals use the passwords that are spilled into the public domain from theft or breaches, and then they just randomly try these on large web portals, and there's a very high percentage of success for access to this data. So that's not a good thing. And if you really think about it, it's like, oh, yeah, if you start putting these things together, it becomes even more serious. And just for fun, I listed the top 10 worst passwords in 2017. Hopefully none of you are using this, and if you are, it's better be on an account that you really don't care about. Smaller businesses also have to be concerned about this, right? There's a number of statistics on this page that illustrate that still the top method for used in breaches is still stolen credentials. There's that's usually stolen or weak credentials is the predominant method. Data breaches are a very high percentage, over 50% are used against small businesses. Less than 15% of small to mid-sized companies have deployed a solution, which is sort of criminal all by itself. And then you've heard the story about how SMBs go out of business within 6 months of a breach. 60% of them, and that's statistics often used for like data backup and disaster recovery. And then it's a very high cost for data breaches to SMB per incident and per user frequently. So what are the use cases? Well, the first use case is something we all are presumably using, right, which is multi-factor authentication. We're using it for private accounts like bank and investment accounts. Anything that is super important. These companies, our banks and our investment accounts like E-Trade and so forth, have taken it upon themselves to provide that solution for you. And it usually used to be a token that you get for RSA or something like that, and now they're using your phone. And so it's actually very easy to use, and anybody who's not using it for financial accounts, you'd better call your bank and figure out and ask them why you don't have it. And the chances are they do have it, and all you need to do is ask for it. It's usually free. But for businesses, we need it for IT administrators and for that team in order to make sure that the core people accessing the crown jewels are controlled, right? At least controlled in terms of who's accessing the information and who's getting in. Websites itself is another area. Websites are one of the highest breach areas in security access through that, and web portals themselves, web applications, and even the administrators using it, and things like I even wrote a couple of blogs recently on how to secure WordPress, and one of those is around security, and access control is a piece of that. Cloud applications themselves, more and more applications moving to the cloud, especially for the really important stuff like the financial stuff, the HR, payroll. You better have two-factor authentication, and you can't just let everything migrate to the cloud and then someday wake up and go, wait a minute, we really haven't done the same level of security on that we did on our internal assets, or when it was in our own data center. So this is something we really need to think about. And then network login or Microsoft Windows login, remote access is also very key because you really need to know who's accessing your data remotely. So what are some of the unmet needs? Well, so what are the obstacles, right? Or what are the obstacles in adopting this? Well, for me personally, we've been in this business for 15 years, and I've been terribly frustrated in that we've known this is important for the last 10 or 15 years, But the only stuff that's been available is enterprise level solutions, super expensive, hard to implement, requires internal servers. It's a nightmare, right? And as a result, the only people implementing these solutions are enterprises, generally speaking. But what we need it to be affordable. We need it to be easy to deploy, zero hardware ideally, right? Usable for multiple applications, and SSO, or being able to have one authentication method that allows you to access multiple things. In many cases, is kind of important as well, and that's not true for every case, but very important in general. It has to be easy to use, right? It has to be easy to use, and that's why when we moved to the phone as the authentication vehicle, if you will, that was a major point, because now no longer do you have to have these tokens in your pocket and just adding to the number of things you got to carry around and to try to get access. Researchers are saying that by 2019, more than 80% of companies will use some kind of access management solution, and that identity as a service, or cloud-based, SaaS-based, pay by the month kind of solutions are going to be the method of choice. And that's where everything's moving. And so if you add all of that to convenience together in terms of how you deploy it, ease of payment, even splitting it up into monthly payments in some cases, I mean, all of that stuff makes it something where the time has come of age right now for this to be something that is used by companies. So our company, we're a security solutions provider. We provide everything from risk assessments to managed security. We provide security training solutions. We do security projects. We do advisory services, and we focus on helping our customers get compliant with regulations. Lately, GDPR is in the news. NIST has been something that a lot of companies are being hit with, and probably more importantly, companies are now being asked to be compliant with regulations, even if you are not in a specific industry. It's your customers are telling you need to be compliant. We help companies get there. We work with security product companies as well to combine those products with our services to provide a total solution. And so that's my introductory section. Again, I'm Tom Ruffalo. I'm a CISA. There's my contact information. Check out our blog. I write a blog every 2 weeks, and I just put one up there again yesterday. And so we try, and you can subscribe to that, and we'll send you information on it every month if you want. I'm going to introduce now and move to Alex Caglione. I probably pronounced it a little wrong, but close. And he's going to give you the introduction, or his story, and how WatchGuard is rolling this out. And it's very exciting stuff, and it's it definitely hits all those objectives that we're looking for in terms of convenience and price and everything else. So, Alex, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Yeah, you said it correctly. Cannoni or Caglione is fine. It's Italian. Even though I'm Brazilian, it's Italian last name. Thank you. So yeah, I'm Alex Caglione. I was the CEO and CTO from DataBlink. We started about 10 years ago in Brazil, and we expanded the business to US and APAC. And then last year, WatchGuard acquired us. And the whole idea between this acquisition was to launch a new product, and this product is about to be launched, which is called WatchGuard AuthPoint. So AuthPoint is a solution. It's a MFA solution in the cloud, authentication as a service, as you're going to see in here. So the idea behind this presentation is to show just a little bit more about the market drivers. So Tom already talked about most of the market drivers. It's very interesting information. So I'm going to show a little bit more of some data from the market. Then I'm going to show what's MFA and why do we need. So why do we call this MFA and not 2FA? What's the difference? And then I'm going to talk about some of the use cases, and I'm going to show some demos in here. So how you can use AuthPoint with our beta version, which is already there, ready for our partners to test. And then at the end, I'm just going to go through the main components, the main features of the product, so everybody understands what's the product. So okay, so let's start with some market drivers. First of all, I think Tom already mentioned some numbers from the market why MFA is so important. So we saw there that more than 80% of all the attacks will use at some point some stolen credentials. It's either to get access to the network, it's to get privileged access to some applications. So at some point, most of the attacks will use some sort of stolen credentials. So, and I guess that everybody saw what happened a few months ago in Hawaii when this message was sent out, like saying that something was coming for everybody to run because something was coming from North Korea or whatever. And they thought at the time that this was the systems were hacked. And then they started to investigate before we knew that it was a mistake, a human mistake. They found this video about this emergency agency in Hawaii. And looking at this video, you will notice that if you zoom at the back, you're going to see a sticker. So there's a post-it with a password saying warning point two or something like that. So stickers are still one of the main issues regarding passwords. People don't remember the passwords, and to mention really well the thing about having reusing the same passwords. And I do the same thing. I have my easy passwords that I use for some stupid stuff where nobody can steal money from me. I use some harder passwords for some applications, e-commerce, and then even better passwords if I'm doing banking. But people are repeating passwords. It's impossible for us to remember all the passwords that you use for every application. And I've seen in the market different things or different people trying to figure out ways how can we protect those passwords, how can we manage those passwords. And then the other day I saw this product being sold in the market. It's called Password Keeper, which is like the evolution of Post-its because you can store up to 60 passwords, and probably you're going to need another one just as a backup, so you copy everything. So, I mean, that's a joke. I mean, you can use it to store your passwords, but you're not going to be carrying your passwords on a booklet like that. So we have to think that passwords are really hard to manage and to protect. How can you say or can you make sure or assure that nobody within your company is using the same network password for their social media login as well? How do we know that? People tend to use the same password. So even though you try to protect the passwords and your users, you try to change every 30 days, you're still going to have problems with that because people will forget, people will reuse passwords. So we have to think that passwords are not really secure. And the identities are on the loose. So how does the hackers are using those credentials to explore and then performs those data breaches that we're seeing every day in the market? So the identities are there. People are selling those identities. Recently, you had that collection of 1.4 billion text leaked passwords that was found circulating online. I actually checked. I didn't have any of my passwords in here were there, but I know about several friends who had some passwords and credentials that were on those files that were still valid. So, and that's the big thing. And I think one of the most important thing I would like to point it out in here is that I think most of you heard about or used maybe in the past CCleaner. I was one of the users. I'm happy I wasn't affected with that, but CCleaner was a product from a company called Piriform, and last year they started distributing CCleaner with a Trojan inside. So there was a malware inside the CCleaner that was coming out of the company that develops this product. So investigating that, they just figure out what happened. So how did everything start? Well, someone connected through a TeamViewer account remotely. There was a TeamViewer account open within the Piriform's network, and they were able to connect to this account, and within this machine, they were able to reach other machines. Now, the most important thing about this attack is that when they connected to the TeamViewer account, they knew exactly the credentials to get into the TeamViewer. They were not like trying to crack the password or trying to use different passwords. They knew exactly the credential to be used to attack. So it was probably a stolen password that they got in the internet. So this is just an example that about one more recent attack that started with a stolen credential. So what's MFA and why do we need? So MFA it's when you use two or more authentication factors. So in the first slide that Tom showed, I don't know if you noticed, you had like something you know, which is a password, a PIN, something you have like a token, something you are, a biometric, like your fingerprint, your face recognition. So 2FA is when you have two of those factors together and you use that to authenticate. MFA is when you have two or more authentication factors. So AuthPoint uses more than two authentication factors, and I'm going to show it now. So the first authentication factors would be something you know, your password. So something that you use every day to log into a different system. Something you have, which is a token on your phone. So you're going to download an app, which is the Watchguard AuthPoint app, and then you're going to activate a token that's going to be unique, with unique credentials, with unique keys within your phone. So this is something you have, a token that was activated within your phone. And the third thing is something you have as well, which is a phone DNA. So we create a DNA, we get information about the hardware, we get information about the device, and we create this DNA. And we use it together to calculate the one-time password or to authenticate the user. So it's part of this combination, the DNA of the phone. And one more thing that you have and you can use with AuthPoint is something you are, like a fingerprint or face recognition with iPhone X. You can use face recognition to protect the access to the token itself. So something you are, or a PIN that you can use to protect as well. So we're talking here about 4 factors to authenticate the user. And if you're trying to authenticate, I'm going to show in here, but if you're trying to authenticate, for example, with within a VPN, with a client firewall, you're going to use the same thing you use today. So username and password. The difference is that when you click on connect, you're going to receive a message in your phone asking if you're trying to authenticate. And now you have the opportunity to approve or deny the authentication. The old ways to authenticate to use MFA, usually you had to have a token, a hardware token, which you had to carry yourself, and then you would have to type the password and then the OTP or the one-time password just after the password. So people needed to remember that, needed to put the information. With the push-based authentication, which is now becoming the most used technology for authentication, you don't need to type the OTP. You're going to receive a push message and you can approve within your phone. And I'm going to show how it works as well. So one of the biggest challenges is to protect the remote access to the network. So what's the network? The network can be your applications in the cloud. It can be your corporate network. It can be the network that you use to make business with different vendors. So preventing unauthorized access to the corporate network is really important. And when we talk about VPN, people are working from home, people are working from home offices, they are traveling, they are working from the hotel, and they need remote access to the network or to the cloud applications. So all it takes is one compromised password or one compromised credential for a hacker to get inside the network. That's all it takes. They don't have to steal the password from all those users. Just one, that's enough for them to be able to access the corporate network and then start hacking the systems. And this is precisely what happened with Home Depot. I'm sure most of you heard about this attack. It happened like a few years ago, but it's still really famous because it all started and they had like a report, a tech report, when they checked what happened. It all started with a VPN, someone like that had remote access to the POS network. They were able to crack or to steal the credentials from this one of the users, and with that they started to attack the network. They were able to steal 56 million credit cards. After that, they said, "Oh, by the way, they also were able to steal 53 million emails." And last year, they had a $27 million settlement because of that. And it all started with a stolen credential. That's how it started. So I think this is a good use case of attack to credentials and VPN access to the network. So let's see a little bit about Authpoint now. So what's Authpoint? So Authpoint is part of what we call Watchguard Cloud. So Watchguard Cloud created this environment, this multi-tier, multi-tenant public cloud, this environment, and this is going to be launched together with Authpoint. So Watchguard Cloud, you're going to start hearing more about it. It's a platform. It's in the cloud. It's where you're going to manage your assets. You're going to manage your security products, your Watchguard security products, everything from this environment. So Authpoint, it's actually an application that will run within Watchguard Cloud. So who are we protecting with Authpoint? We're protecting local and enterprise identities. We're protecting the users that are trying to access the different applications. Which applications are those? Cloud applications, for example, in specific environments. So again, we talked about the network is not only it's not anymore that local network where you have all the users working and sitting within that cubicle. So you have now the applications are outside the network. You have Office 365, you have Salesforce, you have Google, you have Amazon Web Services. So you have cloud applications, and people need to access those cloud applications. So we try to protect the access to those cloud applications. Another application is the enterprise environments, remote access, for example. So how you protect someone that's accessing the network? How can we protect those credentials? What happens if the credentials were stolen? And we're going to show in here how you do that. And also the endpoints, how you protect the Windows logon, and in the near future, the Mac logon using MFA as well. So which means that whenever I'm going to log into my machine, I'm going to receive a message within my phone asking for my authorization to log into the machine. If I'm on an airplane, I can still log in using the offline mode. So this is something that we're going to demo as well. And how we're protecting that? So we're protecting that using Authpoint app, which is an app that's available on iOS and Android, which you can download for free, and then you just activate your tokens within those apps. Okay, you're gonna see that you can activate as many tokens as you want. So let me just enable here my token, so I can show you real quick, just a quick overview about how the token looks like. So this is just I'm just mirroring my phone. This is my phone and with some of my tokens. So here, if you can see, I have 4 tokens. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4. It all depends on the application. Usually you're going to have just 1 token. That's all you need. A user can have more than 1 token, but usually they're going to have 1 token in their mobile phone, 1 token in their tablet. And you can also add your third-party tokens or your personal tokens as well. We don't manage that. We don't authenticate that. But for example, I have a Gmail account. I use Google to protect Google Authenticator, like technology to protect my account, which is not really secure because the credentials are in this QR code, so you can really clone the application. But anyway, I can still import the seeds and generate the one-time password inside Authpoint. So I can use the app for my corporate applications, to protect my corporate applications, and also to protect my personal social network applications as well. So this is the token. Okay. Okay, let me go back here to the presentation. So now we're going to see some use cases. How can we use the token? How can we use this technology to for remote access, cloud applications, Windows Logon, and just a little bit about PIM and biometrics protection as well. As you can see in here, within my token, I have some of the tokens in here. They have those stars instead of having the number, and this is the protection I mentioned in here, and I'm going to show how it works. So let's start with the first one. And the first one that I'm going to show in here is it's going to be the VPN. So I hope you can see here. I'm using like the mobile VPN with SSL. This is a WatchGuard VPN client. It can be any firewall client. And I think before I start the demos, I just wanted to mention, and this is a very important factor in here. So AuthPoint is a product from WatchGuard, which can be integrated and enabled with any firewall in the market, cloud applications using different protocols. So it's a standalone product. You don't need to be a WatchGuard customer. You don't need to be a Firebox user in order to have AuthPoint. AuthPoint can work with your WatchGuard firewall, can work with different firewalls as well. So for a firewall, usually what you have to do, you have to put the name of the IP address or the name, the URL that you have to connect to the firewall, your username, and the password. So I'm going to put in here my password, and then I'm going to connect. I'm not going to accept the connection, otherwise I might lose the connection here with the system in a while, but I'm going to show how it works. So when it starts to connect, I just put my username and password. So it's the same experience that you have today if you use just username and password. But now you receive also a push message asking if I'm trying to sign in to a VPN, to this specific VPN using this Firebox lab here that I have in Brazil. And I have the opportunity to approve or deny. So in this case, I'm going to deny. And the only reason I'm denying in here is because I don't want to lose my connection here with the system. And then it shows in here that the authentication failed because I denied the connection. Okay. So if you remember the Home Depot case, if they had this in place, and I'm sure it would be much cheaper than what they paid at that time, they would have prevented that attack. Okay. So this is the first example. Another example I'm going to show in here, it's access to WatchGuard Firebox as well. You can protect that the same way. I'm going to put here my password. Let me show again my screen. Okay. But it's going to disappear here. So I receive in here the same thing. I'm trying to log in to the Firebox. Now I know that's me, so I'm going to approve, and then I send the response. Once I send the response, I don't have to type in anything else. It just connects to the firewall, and then you have access to the firewall. So it's really simple and it's really convenient. And I think this is much better than typing in the one-time password. You don't have to go there. Some people are seeing this bar in here and they wait. Oh, I'm going to wait until it moves because I'm going to start typing, and then I'm not going to type everything. It's going to change. I'm not going to be able to authenticate. So you don't have to worry about that. You just receive the push message. You approve within your phone. Really easy to use. So let me get back here to the presentation. So this is a remote access or VPN. So as you can see, with AuthPoint, you don't really have to change the way people use the VPNs. You can still use the same way, username and password. You hit OK, you hit connect, you're going to receive a message, and you have the chance to approve or deny the connection. And again, you can use that with any firewall. So it doesn't really matter which firewall you're using. It will work with almost every firewall in the market because most of them will support either Radius or SAML to authenticate. So again, AuthPoint is it's a standalone service from Watchguard. You can buy it separately, and you can use with your own firewall if it's not a firebox. Okay, now I'm going to show another use case, which is cloud applications. So people are migrating to cloud apps. You're using Office 365, Salesforce, different applications in the cloud, and you want to protect those applications. And at the same time, you can make a very convenient user experience. You can give a really good user experience because the user won't have to remember the credentials or the passwords for all those applications. Once they authenticate to what we call the identity portal or the identity provider portal, more formal name, you can get access to the cloud applications you're entitled to. So for the cloud applications, you have a credential. You're going to be able to single sign on into those applications. You don't have to remember the URL. You don't have to remember the username and password you used in the past to authenticate to those systems. You're going to just authenticate once, and with that, you get access to all the cloud applications without having to re-authenticate. So that issue that was mentioned before about having to remember a lot of passwords, you start eliminating those by using that. And you use MFA method to give it more security. So let's show in here the example. So here's what we call identity portal. So the identity portal, once if you buy AuthPoint, you're gonna have your own URL. So it's gonna be something like authpoint.watchguard.com/ and then the name of the company or something smaller. So here's just I created a small, like it was a pub, pasta and stout. So I was doing with my Irish friend Brandon. So we created this small company called Pasta Stout, and this is my exclusive URL. This is the URL I'm going to use to access my account and my cloud applications. So here I'm going to use my Gmail account, and the only reason for that is because I want to show how to access Salesforce within my developer account with single sign-on. So you're going to put your email or your account name, and then you click next. When you click next, it's going to check if you have access, if this account exists, if this user exists, and then you can type in your password. So I'm going to type in my password. Okay, I'm going to check if I didn't make any mistake in here. Oh, I'm in the same, like I'm using a password that's in the Tom's list. So this is just a demo, don't worry. I don't use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and now I'm gonna use push to authenticate in here. Let me try just to put a little bit here to the side, so it's gonna be easier to show my screen, okay? So again, oops, sorry about that. Is the application that mirrors here. So I'm going to use push to authenticate. That's going to be my first demo. And this one in particular is protected with a PIN. Oops, sorry. It's protected with a PIN or a fingerprint. In my case, I'm lousy. I don't want to type the PIN, so I'm going to put my finger in here so I can activate and see the request, and then I can approve or deny. So I approved in here the authentication, and now I have access to some applications. Those are the applications I'm entitled to. So I have access to Salesforce and the Firebox Corporate Access Portal. So if I go to the Salesforce, it connects me directly with Salesforce, and I don't have to authenticate again. That's single sign-on. So I'm here, I'm connected with my username, and didn't have to type in the username and password again. So very simple, very convenient user experience. So, and there's a new article that I wrote in Simplicity. I encourage you to take a look and read it. It talks about MFA, and because there's this concept that MFA is really hard, it gives a lot of user friction when you implement that. And in this case, from my point of view, you're actually easing up the user experience, because with just one login, you have access to all the applications without having to re-authenticate again. Okay, So I'm going to do the same thing in here. The only thing I'm going to do it differently is just to show the QR code technology. The QR code is used for offline authentication. So let's say I don't have data access, I don't have Wi-Fi access, but in my phone, but I still need to authenticate. So I can use the QR code method, which will show in here. The QR code is like a challenge. So instead of sending the push message, in fact, is creating this challenge with a QR code. So what I'm going to do, there's a button here in the top, which is the activates the QR code reader. I just put in front of the computer, and then it shows me here the OTP that I have to type in. This QR code is encrypted. Only my token can read that. If someone with a different token tries to read this QR code, it's not going to read. It's encrypted. Only my token can read that, and it will use a challenge. And here is the response based on this challenge. So I'm going to type in here the response, and then we will authenticate the same way I did with push. And then I can access the application as well. So you have both QR code, push, and you can use the regular OTP as well if you want. I mean, you can still use that, okay? So this was the cloud-based authentication. Web single sign-on using push, web single sign-on using QR code. So same application, I can use push, I can use QR code, I can use OTP, okay? So the next application I'm going to show in here, and unfortunately I have to show a movie because it's in my computer, and if I lock my computer, you won't see my computer locked. But I'll show in here a quick video with a VM. I should have brought my VM in here. Anyway, I'm going to show a quick video on how it works. So let me just put in here. So with push, basically what happens is that you're going to install an application in your Windows machine. In the near future, we're going to have for Mac as well. With this application, you protect your application with Mfa. So basically what you're going to do here, you type in your username and password. You have the sign-in options. You can enable or disable different sign-in options. Here's is just a copy or a mirror of my colleague phone. So in this case, he's using push. So he received a message. By the way, you can approve if you want. You can approve the message from the notification. You don't even have to open the app. Once you approve in here, you log into the computer. So it's really easy. And we have a feature that you're going to be able to enable or disable, which is remember password. The remember password feature is that so the user won't have to type in the password every time he logs in. He just approves with the phone. And another way to authenticate, so let's say let me just stop for a minute in here. So let's say now you're traveling, you're in an airplane, you open your computer, you need to access your computer. How do you do that? So you can use it offline. You don't have to connect your computer to the internet and pay $15 for 1 hour of internet access within the airplane. You can just turn on your computer and choose QR code-based authentication. So you're going to type in your username and password, and then you can choose the QR code-based authentication. In this case, it's going to show a QR code. You go back to the AuthPoint app. You click on the camera. It will read the challenge, and then you can type in the response 764-280, and you log into the computer. So online and offline authentication to Windows, online, offline authentication, you're going to have as well for Mac, MacBook, Mac OS. Okay, so this is the Windows login application. And finally, PIN and biometrics protection. I just wanted to show in here real quick how you can protect your applications as well using PIN. So let me show my screen again. So if you can see here in my screen, I always do that. So if you take a look at my screen, some of the tokens are protected, some are not protected. So you can choose which ones you want to protect. Now, if I want to see the OTP in here, it's going to ask for a PIN or fingerprint. I'm going to use the fingerprint. Again, I'm lazy. If I use the fingerprint, I can, then it's going to show me the one-time passwords, and then I can use the tokens as well. So you have an option in here called token security that you can protect. You can enable or not biometric ID. You can select a PIN, and you can also set up a different if the tokens are going to be protected or not. You can enable which ones you want to protect, which ones you don't want to protect. Okay. So this is the what we call the token security. And finally, everything is done through a website. This is Watchguard Cloud. Watchguard Cloud is a place where you can manage all your users, your customers, and you can manage your Authpoint installation as well. So here, I'm just going to go and manage my own Authpoint application. You're going to have a dashboard where you can see some of the information about the authentications, reports, how many authentications you had in a specific day or period of time, logs, and then you can also configure your services. You can configure your resources, which are Logon applications, SAML, which is cloud-based cloud application, Radius, usually firewalls, the identity portal, and again, the Logon application for Windows, and then in the future, Mac OS as well. You're going to have groups where you can add groups, different groups of user, maybe a sales group which have access to Salesforce, another group have access to different applications, and within a group, you're going to see which applications they have access to. So this group of users will have access to the identity portal, to Salesforce, to the corporate access portal, Watchguard Logon, so different applications within this group. So you can create different groups, and each group with a different set of resources that they can access. And then you can also define how they should access those resources, OTP, push, or push and QR code. And then you have the users that can be synchronized with your LDAP server. It can be Active Directory, it can be LDAP, or you can just create your users manually as well. Those are the providers.
Alex, can I add one thing?
Yep.
I just wanted to say too that you can purchase this and you can install it and run it yourself, or you can have us do it for you if you want. So depending upon how technical you are or how much bandwidth you've got to do this, we will offer this as a service or as a managed service to anybody that's a customer of ours.
Yeah, and actually the best model is with someone managing the services, but you can do it yourself. I mean, this is usually going to be done, and usually you're going to have someone in the company that will have access here, maybe just as what we call the auditor access, where you can only see the configuration, but you cannot make changes, okay? But this is, what we're seeing here is Watchguard Cloud, is the infrastructure in the cloud where you can manage your Authpoint installation, okay? So going back, so the components, as I mentioned, Watchguard Cloud is a platform where you're gonna have Authpoint as the first product, and then you're gonna have different applications as well. They're gonna be added throughout time. You're gonna be able to add visibility for Firebox firewalls. You're gonna be able to manage your TDR installations, secure Wi-Fi, everything through time. So it's gonna become a real platform where our partners have the ability to manage all of their customers within the single platform. The main components, just a quick idea of those components, is the cloud. The management is what I just showed, is what's in the cloud. You manage, you create the resources, you protect those resources, you define users and groups for that. You have the Authpoint mobile app, which is an app that you download from the store. You activate tokens whenever you want. So, and the way you receive the tokens, it's really simple. Once you create the user, you can create manually the user, you can synchronize with your Active Directory. Once it's synchronized, you can create specific queries where you select which users will have MFA. It will synchronize only those users. Once it's synchronized, it automatically associates the token with those users and will send an email to those users so they can activate the token themselves. It's going to have a link for them to download the app. It's going to have also a link for them to activate the token. So everything is automated, and you can really deploy that in minutes. You have the Logon app for Windows and Mac. Once we launch, we're going to have the version for Windows. After that, a couple of months afterwards, we expect the version for Mac OS as well. There's a small piece of software. It's just a gateway, a small piece of software that you have to install on-prem if you're going to do if you want to synchronize your users with Active Directory or your internal LDAP server. So this is just so there's an internal communication and the cloud, Watchguard Cloud and AuthPoint in the cloud doesn't have to reach directly your Active Directory server. So it's a small piece of software, goes inside your network, just acting as a gateway and also receiving radius requests and then forwarding those requests to the cloud. And finally, we're going to have some agents. So those agents are for the applications where you don't have, those applications that don't support natively authentication protocols such as SAML, such as Radius. So for those applications, we're going to create some small apps, which we call agents, which will enable AuthPoint within those applications as well. The token itself, we saw how it works. It's a mobile token, nothing extra to carry. Like Tom mentioned, you don't have to carry a key fob or 2 or 3 key fobs in your pocket. You're carrying within your phone. You have OTP, push-based authentication, and QR code-based authentication, everything in the same app. Not all solutions in the market support all of that. It's a multi-token app. It creates also a device DNA, as I mentioned. This is a very unique feature, and it uses the DNA for this calculation. So if someone tries to clone your phone or clone your application, it won't work in another phone. And it has PIN protection and biometrics integration as well. So the activation, as I mentioned, once you synchronize the users will receive an email telling them how to download the app and how to activate. They can activate directly from their phone, or if they're looking into a screen, they can just open the app and the QR code reader and activate by reading this QR code. This QR code will redirect the application to AuthPoint in the cloud to activate and create the unique keys on the fly. We have a group called the Watchguard Ecosystem here internally, and the ecosystem group is working in integration guides. Today we have more than 25 integration guides. It's basically like a recipe how you integrate AuthPoint with different applications. What do you have to do to configure AuthPoint, and what do you have to do to configure the other application as well, so you can do the integration in a few minutes as well. And finally, why Watchguard AuthPoint? I think the main points in here, it's first of all simple management. Everything through the cloud. You don't have to have big machines or manage machines, patches to run AuthPoint. Everything is in the cloud. There's a lightweight, full-featured, very nice mobile authenticator. The UX team here put a lot of effort on that. Push authentication, that's the future. That's the best way to go. It's more secure than OTP. OTP can be shared. OTP can be social engineered. Push authentication, you have information about where you're trying to authenticate. That's very important. It can be used for VPN, cloud, and PC login protection, and everything is in the same license. The license are per user. It includes everything you need. You're not going to see something like, oh, I want PC login, so I need to pay an extra. No, everything is already included. It's a per user application. Web single sign-on through the identity portal, as I showed. For Windows machines, you have online and offline authentication. Online using push, offline you can use both QR code and OTP, you can choose. And fast deployment with integration guides, and at the end, more than 10 years of proven technology. And I like to say that because DataBlink had 10 years, and it had more than 10 million users with mobile tokens in Brazil as DataBlink. So it's a technology, it's a very mature technology that we're bringing to Watchguard Cloud. And that we're deploying. We're now on beta, so it's something that will come out very soon. Okay. So with that, I would like to thank you. Thanks everybody. I'd like to thank eSecurity Solutions for this opportunity. And in fact, it was my first webinar to customers since we started building up AuthPoint. So that's very exciting. Worldwide, in US, worldwide. So I'm very excited about this opportunity in here. Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to be here for a while for some questions as well.
Yep. And Alex, let me add a couple of things, and I've had a few questions that I'm going to ask first. First one was around the pricing model, and you said it's a per user model, and it's very simple, and that it includes all the applications that you need. I mean, that's a big difference from the typical enterprise level licensing, which requires hardware usually, but not only that, they typically charge you for every single application or use model that you have. Yours is very simple, and I think you showed how easy it is to deploy and use, and all the different ways it is to use it. So I think that's a great thing, and you pretty well answered that question. You also answered the question about credibility and whether or not it's a proven technology, and it is. The one thing I wanted to mention is that they're related to the beta. The beta is in the Watchguard incarnation. So when Watchguard purchased your organization, you've created a variant of that product, which is for Watchguard, which is designed to have all of the features and functions that you've shown here as a cloud in the cloud model, which I think was probably the big difference. Isn't that right? Related to the cloud?
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest difference is that DataBlink solution was a 100% on-premise solution. And we know that the market is migrating everything to the cloud. This is the way to go. So and it was a really good partnership, because Watchguard had this Watchguard Cloud platform they were developing, and they said, "Well, I love your technology. We have to take this technology and put it in the cloud." So it was like about 8-9 months of work, and now we're showing it in here. So I'm very excited about what came out of that. So it's a complete new solution, but based on the technology we have before with this Watchguard Cloud platform.
Right. So the other part of it is too, that everybody should know that this is a separate product. It does not require a Watchguard firewall or Watchguard firewall license to work. You can buy this as a separate solution. You can also buy it, and it's obviously integrated with Watchguard and will work really well within that environment. But if you only need this and you don't have a Watchguard firewall or don't plan to deploy one, this is still something you can deploy separately, and it competes more than favorably from my point of view with anything else that's on the marketplace in terms of functionality, ease of use, and price.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's see, are there any now maybe Alec, take a look at the 3 questions that were answered. I answered them, make sure I answered them right. And meanwhile, if there's any other questions, you can enter them into the question box. Again, I will emphasize too that if this is something you're interested in, number one, we will contact you, or you can contact us. The contact information is on the screen for our company. We are an authorized, in fact, a gold level reseller and a managed service provider for Watchguard products, and we're also an authorized Watchguard trainer. So we're more than capable of helping you deploy this or managing it. And even if you want to do it yourself, we can provide you with the licenses. We can also talk to you about your use scenario and make sure that this will work for you and the way you want to deploy it. So pretty much anything you want to do and how you want to implement it, I think we can help you with that. How did I do on the question answering? Did I do okay?
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing. One of the questions here is just asking me if I'm using on Wi-Fi or carrier. It doesn't really matter right now. It's on Wi-Fi. You can be on Wi-Fi or carrier, and that's the beauty about push. If I was using SMS, depending where you are, it can take forever. I went once to the Philippines. It took like 3 hours for me to get the SMS. So the beauty of push is that you can use both Wi-Fi or carrier network. It will work the same way. There was another question here about the number of factors. It's actually transparent for the user. The DNA is something transparent for the user, but yeah, you have to definitely use the token authentication and one password at least in order to configure the multi-factor authentication. Okay.
Right, and it does require a phone, right? I mean, everything you've shown is using the phone. And the one thing I've heard before is, well, we don't provide phones, but you don't need to provide phones. In this country, there isn't anybody who doesn't have a phone. And in most countries, maybe they even use even more. So as long as you can download an app to the phone, it can still be the personal phone, and it can be implemented on that as company property.
Yeah, there's one more question here about consecutive QR codes can be used while offline. I think that's a good question. When you're offline, you can use as many as you want. In fact, we copy we create a small credential part of the token within the Windows logon, where we give the computer the ability to generate as many QR codes as you want. Once you connect, the next time you connect, it will synchronize with AuthPoint in the cloud.
Okay, and then the question related to local, I'm assuming that's related to e-security. So it depends on where you are, obviously, but we're in Orange County, California. We're in Newport Beach specifically. We service companies all over the United States, though, and as far as I can tell, we do risk assessments, we do managed security, we provide services, and we sell products. And we have yet to run across a situation where we can't do that even remotely. But if you are local or local to us, we'll be happy to come on site and work with you or talk to you or meet with you, whatever is helpful. And also, if your process requires an eval of some sort, we can probably figure that out too.
Yes, it's within Watchguard Cloud. It's really simple to do it, even if you have to do it remotely. I'm here and I'm in Seattle, but Watchguard is a worldwide company. So there's a question about support IAX. It depends on what you're trying to do. So AIX, like Linux, for example, I would say there's Linux flavors you can use. There's a Radius client that you can use in order to authenticate with any Radius server. So this would work for Linux. I'm not sure about AIX if it has this Radius client, but we can discuss this offline. I mean, we have just to check if that Radius application can run on AIX to authenticate.
Right.
For example, root users. You can do that with Linux.
Right. So one of the things that we can do, Calvin, you're asking the question, and anybody else, is we can set up a meeting with the appropriate people to discuss the technical scenario you're talking about and make sure it works for you. So that, use us as a resource to coordinate getting from where you are right now to the solution you're looking for and making sure that you've checked all the boxes along the way. And given that we've run out of time here, we've taken an hour of everybody's time, and you're welcome. We appreciate everybody attending. I think this is an amazing technology. Frankly, from my point of view, it's something we've been waiting for 15 years to see an affordable, easy-to-use solution that actually, checks all these boxes and actually solves this problem the right way. We're happy Watchguard's bringing it, and Watchguard's a great provider overall. As they expand the product line, they seem to be hitting target, directly the solution that our people are looking for, and so we're excited about this. We're ready to roll it out, and we think this is a good solution, a good way for us to make our companies more secure and more compliant. Thanks very much. Hope to talk to you all soon.